Saber Pride. Item 3.1 is the Shakopee Educational Endowment Foundation 2023 and 24 grants. And with us to present tonight are Holly Johnson and Jenny Smith from SEEP. Welcome.
Thanks. So Jenny was gonna hide behind the big chair, but here she is. I think most everyone in the room is familiar with SEEF. It is the Shakopee Educational Endowment Fund, and it's a supportive but separate to the school district. So we provide grants up to $2,500 to educators in the district. We really focus on innovation and creativity, things that are outside the scope of things that are funded through their normal channels. So we have been around since 1991 and have been able to award 585 grants and just about $500,000. So it's very, very exciting. This year, we were able to award 16 grants. I believe that was just about all of those who applied. Grant applications open at the beginning of the school year? Yes. And then we just kind of went through the awarding. So here we are today to go over some of them. You can look a little at your leisure at this year's awardees. So let's see. This year was about $27,000 we were able to supplement classrooms. Almost all the schools, so there are a couple district-wide initiatives and quite a few from the early education. My notes from Jack, our treasurer today. So also really notable this year, we have had 3 community members that reached our sustainer level of $10,000. Palmer Bus, Roger and Tracy Menden, and the Rotary. So we definitely rely on community members, alumni, community businesses to fund our grants. So we have had really a lot of good relationships in the community. So
we also just want to thank all the people that have donated.
Yes.
I know there's several people in the room that
Yes.
have donated. We really appreciate it.
And I guess I just wanted to touch on, like, personally, a couple grants that stood out to me. I have a particular passion for diversity and inclusion. Specifically, we were able to grant in the Early Learning Center Classroom Equity a book set. So those are shared throughout the whole school, as well as materials. So it's obviously so important for especially our youngest learners, to be seeing and reading about experiences of people that look and come from backgrounds like they do. And also on the other end of our age of our learning, we were able to have a grant for the Dakota Learning Center for a small kind of kitchen. So a refrigerator and an oven, so really those life cooking skills that, not helps send everyone kind of hopefully with equity into their adult life. So yeah, so it was about 16 this year. There's a summary too at the end of the booklet of last year's grants, as well as a little more detail about this year's grants, just kind of at a glance. So we've had such great support, obviously, from everyone at the school district. So it's just been a really wonderful partnership. And Jenny and I being new to this, the SEEP board members have been so welcoming, and it's just been really great to see all the ways we can impact our school. That's about it.
Should we present the picture?
Yep. Kathy Bush keeps us at her house all year.
So anything
I know, right?
However you want. Yeah, stands perfect that way. It's a big check.
Just tell me how about the picture today. I'll hide.
Don't laugh at them hiding, we do it all the time.
Right? Yes, yes, yes.
We give a round of applause for Steve. Thank you, Holly and Jenny, that was great.
Alright, now I have the opportunity to launch Shakopee into the celebration of Public Schools Week. It is really hard to sum up all that public education has done and continues to do to support the future of our communities, our state, and our country. We have over 98,000 public schools in the United States that work daily to support our future. Shakopee schools are an incredible collaboration between our families, our businesses, the Chamber of Commerce, nonprofits, advocates, public health, public safety, and most importantly, each and every member of the greater Shakopee community. These folks come together each day to support every student, and that is what makes public education so amazing. We have our compelling vision up. It's on the screen right now, and this is probably the most concise way to articulate our educational commitment and the focus that we have on each and every student, each and every day. We want to thank you, our school board, for your public service that directly supports all of our students and public education. And most importantly, we want to thank the greater Shakopee community, the staff that come to work every day, and our families for constantly coming together to support each and every kid as if it was their kid. 2 years ago, Shakopee Graduate created a video that we're going to show you to close our tribute for Public Schools Week that attempts to capture just a few of the amazing moments that make up public education here in Shakopee. Enjoy the highlights and reminders, and here's to Public Ed.
We see growth with the students, the parents, the families we work with, and that is what makes my job so much fun.
I love the kids that I work with. I think that gets you going from the 8:30 to 3:10, but it's the people I work with. It's the people that I come and team with every day.
Thank you, Jim. So that was item 3.2. Next on the agenda is item 4, a consideration of the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Brophy and a second by Peterson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is item 5, public comment. This is the time where members of the public can participate in the meeting without being part of the meeting agenda. A member of the public may address the board on an agenda topic or on another topic. We allocate a total of 15 minutes for public comment at this meeting. Each individual speaker may speak for up to 2.5 minutes. The sign up for public comment has been conducted online and in person prior to this evening's meeting. No one has signed up for public comment prior to this evening's meeting, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Next on the agenda is item 6, our consent items. You can see we have personnel items, meeting minutes, bills and authorizations, and the wire report, donations, and the scoreboard contract for Apple Autos. I would like to take a minute to look at the personnel items. You can see that there are, we have 4 people retiring. We have Carol Armstrong, Jill Anderson, Cheryl Johnson, and I'd like to thank them for their service to the district. And I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge Julie Ritter, who is retiring at the end of June. Julie joined the district in July of 2019 as the Central Family Center Administrator, which then transitioned to the administrator of Pearson Early Learning Center when programming was moved to its current location. Her extensive background in early childhood family education and school readiness, paired with her unwavering dedication to serve each and every student, has played a pivotal role in providing exceptional service to our families with children from birth through age 5. We are deeply grateful for Julie's dedication to our families and the 60+ staff members at Pearson Early Learning Center. As we move forward, we will carefully consider next steps filling this leadership position. So, thank you, Julie. Anything on that?
No, just echo your sentiments.
I will make a motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
We have a motion by Aldrich and a second by Valdez. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. To be more consistent with how I say it.
You'll get there.
Next on our agenda is is an information item, starting with item 7.1, early student learning in action. And with us tonight we have Kristen Ellis, the Red Oak Elementary Principal, Kevin Bierken, Jackson Elementary Principal, Derek Bell, the Sweeney Elementary Principal, and Virginia Wool, Elementary Teacher. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I will start us out. Kevin, nice to meet you guys. A couple things we'd like you to take away after our short little presentation. The first thing is just how developmental designs and assessment for learning are related and how important and what they really mean to us. Secondly, kind of a good look at what building leaders are doing across the district to make those fruitful and beneficial for all students. And then third, how students are impacted. So we want to know what is this really doing for our students. This is a slide that I think is really, as simple as it is, very important. If we look at the most outstanding instructional expert you could ever find, they're limited in what they can do. If you look at the best, most fitting culture and climate for every student, it is still limited what you can do. But when you have both in place, you have a sense of belonging, you have a culture, you have consistency for kids, for teachers, everybody, and you have excellence in academics and their instructional strategies. The two together is really what make a school or district successful, because we are trying to hit every single student as a part of our mission, and neither one alone can do it. So the two together are our focus right now. So I'm going to have Derek take off from there a little bit.
just a reminder that, the compelling vision is really driving a lot of the work that we're doing. And, we just heard from Jim and so just keep that in mind, that we're working to change to meet the needs of every kid and doing what we can to make sure that they have a high quality instruction in front of them. So you guys have this graphic, and really what we wanted to do is kind of get you to kind of see the district priorities between developmental designs and assessment for learning and the pillars that hold them up. And so we're each going to take a little bit of time to talk about the pillars. And so I'm going to start off with the first two pillars there, PD or professional development, and then PLC, which is professional learning community. When I talk about PD, it's really a sense of we're taking all of this knowledge and we want to get it out to, into the classrooms. So we're making sure that we have common and consistent professional development that is happening within our buildings and across buildings. A couple of the pictures that I shared, we've done some cross-district professional development where we're taking two different buildings or more and training those teachers at the same time and collaborating with one another. We're giving direct PD from us, so that they're hearing it from us and they know that we're immersed in it. And you're gonna learn more about that and how that feeds back into the classroom. And ultimately, we wanna give staff voice and choice as well. And so we're trying to meet their needs by listening to what their needs are. And so we're making sure that we're getting feedback on that professional development, ultimately to enhance that student experience. The second piece is the professional learning communities. And so I'm gonna share with you what we do as from an admin standpoint, which is then gonna trickle down into the classrooms. And so our PLC, our professional learning community, meets every week. And 4 out of 5 weeks, we talk about instruction. We talk about the work that's happening in the classroom that's impacting the kids and their student learning. We get into classrooms once every 3 weeks. And so we go into each other's buildings, and it's our opportunity to see what's happening, so we know firsthand, what are the different instructional practices that are being taught in the classrooms. But it also gives us a chance to get some iterative reliability. So, what Kevin might see, or what Kristen might see, or Patrick or staff is different than what I might see. And so we're having those discussions about what we're seeing and the feedback that we're providing to staff so that it is common and consistent across the district.
I'm gonna jump to pillars 3 and 4. Keeping in mind, the top portion of your handout does talk about developmental designs and assessment for learning, but under that is really the board's vision when it comes to equity and learning. So I just wanna make sure that you guys are aware of that connection with these two priorities. So pillar number 3 is about collaboration. And we at the elementary level have done a lot of different things this year to enhance our collaboration amongst our 5 leaders in the elementary levels, but also across the district with the different departments. So we've invited department leaders from student services and learning, teaching, and equity to do shared walkthroughs with us so that we're learning and seeing things from another perspective, so that when we do provide that feedback for our staff, we're able to provide meaningful feedback that is in real time to be able to have the teachers take the next steps to help the kids ultimately with different areas. We do vertical teaming. So for example, we have an art teacher gonna go to the middle school to learn what the middle schoolers are gonna be doing in 6th grade, so that she can bring that back to an elementary school and be able to prep them and help them bridge that transition over. We also are working with just vertical teams within the buildings, so our kindergarten teachers are not working in isolation, they're working with kindergarten and 1st grade teachers. So they're able to talk about what are the next steps, what do the students need for next year. Same thing with different grades beyond that. And again, the emphasis to really focus on that enhanced student experience. That way those transitions as they're moving from grade to grade and from class to class, we're able to really have that as well. We're also really working on preparing our 5th graders for that transition to middle school. We're doing things like giving them an opportunity to walk independently in the hall. While that might seem really minute, for them, it's a really big deal to not have to be in a line. Plus, it prepares them for how to do it well when they go to school next year. We're talking about how to enhance technology, so giving them the opportunity to practice in Canvas in 5th grade where they're comfortable. That way, it's one less thing to have to practice when they're making that big transition up to the middle school. Another area is modeling. So Derek talked about, shared staff meetings and things like that. When we get into classrooms and we see what's happening, it then tells us, okay, this is going really well. These are some next steps for professional development that we need to make sure the staff is hearing. So when we do that, we're modeling developmental designs. We're modeling the collaboration. We're modeling so many different things, and the teachers are taking that into their classrooms right after the staff meetings. They're implementing the games. They're implementing the new strategies. They're implementing the strong and weak work when it comes to strategy 2 for AFL. We're also getting more comfortable with inviting teachers into the classrooms to see what their colleagues are doing. As much as a good conversation can be really in-depth, there's so much more that somebody can gain by watching it for themselves and taking away what they want to take away from watching it live and in person. So they're going across sites to see that within the elementary level, and of course that vertical component as well, again, to really enhance that student learning. Just a couple pieces before I move on to Kevin. With some of the pictures here, these are some of the priorities that we're really focusing on when it comes to AFL. So those different learning strategies. The one on the bottom right, that's from one of the center-based programs in our schools. So even our students who have unique learning differences are really taking off when it comes to strong and weak work and using that language to help them know what their work needs to look like to continue to grow in their advancement with their learning. So a variety of ways to showcase that. Kevin?
Interesting number. Very interesting number to me. It's the last pillar is ongoing support. And there's a bunch of research out there that talks about staff development of educators and what happens over time. The number 5% is the number of teachers that follow through without ongoing support. You send them to workshops, they go to this, they take a class. About 5% is the number of people that actually do it. That's kind of freaky, isn't it? So this last pillar is just near and dear and very, very important. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of things that we do for ongoing support. Without it, I don't think we would be anywhere near where we are. So, a couple of samples right here. The one on the left you're looking at is part of our walkthrough forums. That's the 5 principles we went around and work together. One of the things that we do is we focus on opportunities or things that teachers may have been able to do to implement part of either one of these two things. And so we use them a lot to give people ideas. That's ongoing. Up in the upper right is the work from our PLCs. We have PLCs that take this stuff and they run with it and they create, they implement things into their lesson plans, they keep track, they challenge each other, and they record. So in their own PLCs, they keep working forward with that stuff as well. We do a lot of, as Kristen said, great modeling. We have people come to staff meetings to share what they're doing. They share it out. They get ideas from each other. They visit each other's rooms to see what they're doing. This is just one teacher's example. It's become just the way he does business. He doesn't even think about not doing it anymore. He's been doing it a couple of years and says it's made such a giant impact on his teaching and the quality of his kids, what they can produce, that he can't imagine doing it without it. And you can see there that his learning targets are up and he's got strong and weak work for each example, and he explains it. And it might be up for a unit, but they're fabulous examples, and he said it's made an unbelievable difference in what he does. So there's a few other things listed there, but briefly, just ongoing support is so extremely important. What we do after we teach the teachers, it's just as important as what we teach them.
So you've heard what we're doing at the leadership level to really enhance that student engagement and that student support and that experience. The most important voice is from the teacher's perspective and what our work is doing as it goes into the classroom, directly touching the lives of the students. So with that, Virginia Wold has some things that she'd like to share.
I'm Virginia Wold. This is my 19th year teaching for Shakopee Public Schools. I I taught 5th grade for 15 years, and now I teach high potential at Red Oak. And I will say that this is the most effective professional development, era of professional development that I have ever experienced. And there are 2 major ways that I experience professional development, and I kind of have them as 2 flow charts on this slide. So the first one is that I will receive professional development at a staff meeting or an early release day. And just like Kristen said, it's no longer than I'll go set it on a shelf, but it's something that is ready for me to use that day. I can immediately implement. And because everything is so aligned to our district initiatives and we can see the benefit for students right away, there are things that we can put in place right away. And sometimes it's just, we need to be able to conceptualize it to see how to put it in place. And it's always very in a good progression, so it's the next steps. And so we had a PD on math. And so I took that and looks like, feels like, sounds like, I was able to implement it in my classroom. It worked so well. I used it with strong and weak work. Then I opened up my classroom as a Pineapple classroom and then led professional development. And so sometimes it flows like that I receive the PD, implement it, and then share it with others because it has made such a great impact on students. Sometimes, like on the right-hand side, you can see Kristen had us sort action steps for professional growth plans. It was so effective. I have never written a better professional growth plan than I wrote this year because I could really see what I needed to work toward. And so then I had my students do that with their responses to reading. They sorted student work from weakest to strongest. And you can see them engaged there. And then when Kristen walks through, she's able to see what we're doing and give feedback. And then we had shared PD with Sweeney on strong and weak work. And so I was able to share some things and we were able to collaborate. And because of my very unique role, I have people on my team from all 5 elementary buildings. And so everything that we do is able to make an impact across buildings. And ultimately, it's making an impact on students sooner than ever because everything is so ready to be implemented. And because I've been able to be a part of Pineapple Classrooms and helping deliver the PD, I've been able to feel the excitement of people are already doing it. Have you seen all the strong and weak work already? Just a day later. And so that's exciting to be part of.
Thank you, Virginia. So with that, we're gonna open up to you guys if you have any questions for us.
So Pineapple Classroom that's a term for when you're sharing your PD with other groups. When you talk about having people from other schools come see what you're doing, that's your name for it.
So in our building, it's when we have something in particular that we've been working on that's part of, right now, either developmental design or assessment for learning. And then we will say to our colleagues, I'm gonna try this out. Feel free to come in and watch and then send out some times. And we always, Kristen and Jenny will cover, or like when I did it, I tried to make sure that several prep periods were available. And so then other teachers can watch you succeed or flop and reflect and see what it looks like to try those strategies.
It takes a little courage, right? Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry.
I was just gonna add, so is this like the first year with the development design? Or do you guys have maybe metrics from last year? So from last year to this year, has there been an improvement?
So this is our 2nd year of implementing it across the district. And I don't have numbers by any means, but feelings. And the overall sense of the building has shifted dramatically. I would say just how kids feel like they can be kids, and if they make a mistake, it's okay to make a mistake because they're gonna be learning along the way for how to fix that mistake and make it better next time. I would say that the interactions that any staff member has with a student feels different and better than it has in the past. people have said when they walk in the building, they do feel just, I don't wanna say lighter, but it just feels welcoming. It feels like there's connections happening throughout the building. I don't know if you guys are also in our shoes as far as year two.
I was just gonna say, bringing back to that compelling vision and the idea of student agency, that's the driver of bringing that out, is that developmental designs training, and us being able to continually give feedback in the classrooms to talk about the student, or the empowering language that the teachers are using when they're interacting with kids, and kids interacting with their peers, so.
Third aspect, if you give me a second too, is the consistency in any kind of alignment. So it's PBIS or developmental designs, when you have an entire district working in that direction, that's absolutely key. When you have buy-in from everybody, there's consistency between people's expectations, moving from school to school, every kid for every teacher. You get rid of all these complications when you're not sure what to do in this class and that class and that class, because everybody should be following the same design. So the fact that it's district-wide and not a single school, and the fact that everybody's working toward the perfect model of developmental designs, that has just got to bring us forward.
The teachers seem pretty receptive to it. I mean, Virginia, you've been doing this for 19 years, so that's really encouraging to say, you know, it's like, that's one of your best experiences in your long career, so.
The developmental design training was some of the most impactful professional development that I have had. I would say that there have been very few other trainings that have been so impactful and made such a positive difference.
I think part of the acceptance in wanting to implement it is that it wasn't a one and done, right? There's been ongoing modeling, there's been ongoing support, there's been coaching from the company to come in and support our teachers and help with professional development throughout the course of the last 2 years. That in and of itself has been really helpful to help more and more staff, not only our teachers, but other staff in the building, get more on board and wanting to take the training as well.
Any other questions or comments?
Really good stuff though, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Next on our agenda is item 7.2, monthly budget update, and with us to present is Bill Manazzi, our Director of Finance.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me. On the screen, you'll see the general fund budget update as of January 31st. Just to give a quick update here, so we are at the meeting where we'll be presenting the revised budget for school board approval later on this evening. And so you see highlighted in green, the column has now been updated from the adopted budget to the revised. So a little bit in backwards order, you're getting a preview of what you're going to be asked to approve in the next few agenda items here. And that is the case also for the updated fund balance projections at the bottom as well. So you will see on the revenue side, we have collected $60.221 million of $118.982 million general fund budget. So we have collected 50.6% this year compared to 43.5% prior year and 53.6% in the second prior year. You will notice that although we have increased the budget for local revenue, which is fees, interest, etc., you'll notice that we have collected almost 2 million of our budget of 2.8 million. So we have collected almost 150% of that budget. The reason for that variance, that is the sale from Central Family Center that was closed in December, about 1.5 million is included in that actual amount. It is coded to operating capital, but because it is local revenue as opposed to state or taxes or federal, it needs to be included in that row. And so that's a one-time payment. Obviously, you can only sell Central Family Center one time. And so it's included there.
Got to try.
On the expenditure side, we have Expended 60.28 million of $118.8 million general fund expenditure budget, which is 50.7% this year compared to 50.2% in the prior year and 48.2% in the second prior year. Obviously, our salary and wages and employee benefits assume contractual obligations for settled or expected contractual settlements. And so any budget variances in that area will really be determined after settlement of the contracts that are currently being negotiated. I did want to point out under purchase services, we have expended about 57% of our budget this year compared to 43% last year. That increase is related, as we talked about at the Facilities Committee, Finance and Facilities Committee meeting earlier this evening. Our property insurance increase has gone up pretty significantly, and as members of the committee expressed, their own homeowners' property insurance has gone up significantly. So it's an unfortunate trend with regard to property and casualty insurance. We have budgeted for that, but that's really creating the bulk of some of our budget variance from the prior year. So other than that, we will continue to track this budget and provide budget updates on a monthly basis moving forward. And as I mentioned, in the next few agenda items, you'll see a budget recommendation for a revised budget in the current year. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions if you have them.
So the 1.5 million from the sale of Central Family, what funds will that go into? I know it's not assigned, so I just want to know.
Great question. That is in operating capital, and operating capital is in a restricted fund balance. You're right, it is not the unassigned fund balance, which is the overall measure of our health and the fund balance policy. It's outside of that, it would be in the restricted set aside for operating capital.
I just want to point that out because if you look at the bottom, the unassigned fund balance is going up $3 million if we stick to the budget for the remainder of the year. And it kind of seems like that 1.5 million would be part of that 3, and it's not, and that's great news.
Yep, exactly right.
Bill, I have one question. You talk about operating capital. I think we had talked previously when we were in the process of selling that property, that money could be used for curriculum. Is that an operating capital piece that's one piece in that bucket? Where
Yes.
that money comes from, is that correct?
Yes, so operating capital can be used for curriculum. Increasingly, curriculum is both the books and the software component to that. So there's a balance between curriculum and options for both operating capital and our technology levy that we have.
Right.
But you are right that it can be used for operating capital.
So my question, why I ask that is, we know that with the implementation of the READ Act, there's significant cost related to that. And would we be able to use some of those dollars to help pay for the implementation of that if we needed it? Or is that fall in a different category? And I know some of that is yet to be determined.
I can give you a general answer because part of our issue is we've got a couple big curriculum adoptions coming up, math and then language arts, which are enormous expenses, and we've worked through the operating capital budgets knowing that we would have some. We didn't get all 1.5 million, we had to cover a lot of costs, taking the building down, environmental mitigation, and Bill has a spreadsheet on that, but I think the READ Act is still going to be a challenge. It may help us a little bit with some of the training, some of the professional development that goes with that. But because we could then use what's coming from this to pay for curriculum and maybe shift a little, but it's still, we're working through the READ Act. The easiest example to see is the state right now will pay for the actual training course, for the teacher training, but they won't pay for the teacher time. And guess which is more expensive in that equation? It's not the course, it's the time. And so, and only, I think from the READ Act, I think right now it's a maximum of $250,000, which is a lot of money. But when a typical language arts curriculum overhaul for K-12 in a district our size is probably closer to $1.25 million. It might cover 20% of that bill. So it helps us, but it's not, we've been working really hard with our, our capital projects levy, our ongoing operating curriculum, and so we got the budget set in an ongoing manner. The READ Act, we're still, trying to see what the state is going to do. I hope they provide some more revenue. We're completely on board. It's the right thing to do, but it is an enormous undertaking, and like I said, paying for the cost of the courses, that's great. We're still trying to figure out where the roughly $400,000 comes to pay people for their time, because talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 hours per teacher, and you've got 600 and some teachers, so it adds up in a hurry.
So how much is gonna be the total?
Pardon?
How much is gonna be the total? Do you have the number?
For total for?
For 75 hours,
Roughly 400,000,
400,000.
roughly.
So what we are getting is just, it's covering the,
We're getting zero of that.
oh,
We're getting the cost of the course, which.
for the
Yeah.
curriculum.
Yeah, so,
Actually, it would be better if they do it the other way.
I agree.
Yeah.
I always want them to spend on the expensive parts. We'll cover the low cost ones, but, yeah, so it's a helpful piece. It's not, oh my gosh, we've got all this operating capital revenue. And that is one of the parts of our budget that really hasn't gone up anywhere near the rate of inflation over the last 10, 15 years either, so. And operating capital goes for all kinds of other stuff too, in terms of equipment and things like that across the district, so.
Any other questions for Bill? Thank you, Bill. We'll see you in a few agenda items.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is item 7.3, suggested elementary boundary change information. And to present, we have Dr. Redmond.
Thank you.
Wish we had a longer intro to give you more time to work faster.
Well, I was trying to log on in room 201. I hit the button a little quickly, so it could be playing somewhere down the hall as well. But, just want to lay out suggested boundary changes, and ultimately we'll see this. We'll have some time at our March 11th development meeting for questions as well. And then we would, there's the other room I was trying to get into. Thought I was making that up, I wasn't. And then we'll have, this will come back at the March 18th meeting for, board approval. But wanted to take a look, as we've done in the past, proactively, the land that we're looking at is predominantly undeveloped land at this time. And we have, as we always do, we meet an ongoing, nature with the city, and that land, there's plans for developing it, and so that kind of sets some things in motion for us. And you'll see, and we'll have a few more maps, but it's this piece of land just south of Valley View, just west of Mystic Lake, County Road 83, that the recommendation would be to shift it from, it's currently zoned in the Sun Path Elementary School boundary, but to shift that to the Red Oak Elementary School boundary to better balance, as most of the growth in our district, it continues to move to the south and the west. We're trying to, we've expanded those boundaries to the two schools that are in the east in the past, Eagle Creek and Red Oak, and this is one more further attempt to kind of continue that, and much easier to set a boundary before people go and build houses there, and then after that move them. There's, so that's always our goal here. Kind of zoomed in on our district map, and we'll, again, same arrow, same thing. It's just kind of an area map. You'll notice, there's a couple roads, but those tend to be, dirt roads, if you will. And right now, the bulk of the land is farmland, agricultural land. We certainly do work with, again, there's always a couple of households in there, and we do work with them and kind of give them that grandparent option of, continuing where they're at and doing some of that, because we don't want to create an unnecessary burden, and we will certainly do that. And then if you really zoom in, you can almost see the really faded ink there. There's a boundary. I'm gonna go to the next one because this really did not carry through well. But what would be Red Oak is much easier to see on this map. And again, one of the nice features of our district is transportation really works really well from one end of the district or the middle of the district to the other end. And so this area is not too far from current transportation or houses that are part of the Red Oak district. There's more of a zoomed in map. And the Red Oak is, that area that's inside that boundary. And then one of the questions trying to anticipate would be, hey, what happens to the middle school boundaries? Absolutely nothing. They stay in the east area, so there'd be no change there. And as I said, just wanted to kind of put this on your radar, so to speak, and get that out there and give you time to think of questions. I did have one from a board member last week, which I shared with the other board members and leadership team in my weekly wrap about enrollment, and gave you enrollment by grade for this school year and projected for next school year. And you can see, where Red Oak right now currently has the least number of students in the elementary enroll, and kind of expected again next year. And this is an opportunity to balance that a little bit as we continue to grow as a district more to the south and west. And I know as I'm looking around, a few of you live over in the Red Oak area and some of the Eagle Creek area, closer to those schools. Not that there's not a little bit of construction over there, there is, but very little. And so mostly established neighborhoods. With that, I'd open it up for any quick questions. And again, we'll have a little bit of time on March 11th and then again on March 18th.
Is there a developmental plan yet for that? Didn't know, so how many houses or rental units or anything?
Not off the top of my head. And again, sometimes those change from when the city introduced it. But if you drive by, you'll see that there's some things beginning to happen. So we're trying to be on the early front end of that. I can look, the city's on their website has a good development page. Sometimes they share that with us ahead of time. I can add that to make sure you get that.
I think they're higher end homes. I think they're starting out, I think the sign said that's $750.
Well, I know that we've done this in the past where we've taken these areas and assigned as school, and I think doing that prior to any houses being built is the smart thing to do, just so that people who might move in there would know what elementary school that they would be going to. Because it is closest to Sunpath, and Sunpath is, based on the enrollment, the second lowest. It's not that much lower than Red Oak, but I think there's some more areas around there that could be assigned to Sunpath at some point.
Yep, I think as we move forward, Sunpath is in much closer proximity to where all the expected development and growth, kind of Jackson and then, Township and continuing that. And again, you're trying to balance that out, and, we're kind of Eagle Creek and Red Oak are kind of down a narrow corridor, if you will, to the east, and that's just part of that reality. And again, transportation times are pretty good from, where this development would be to Red Oak.
It's not that far of a drive. Where I used to live, we were in Red Oak, and that was a long drive. This is not that bad.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Redmond.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is item 8, I'm sorry, we still have an information item, yes, I jumped ahead. So, this is an information item 7.4, American Indian Education Update, and with us to present is Justine Vogel, American Indian Education Coordinator, and we brought some guests. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Smith, School Board, and Dr. Redmond. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you again today and kind of update and highlight some of the things that we've been doing in American Indian education this school year. Bonjour, Kanuya, Justine Indigenous, Magizi, and Dodame,
Gazagaswa, Janaikug, and Donjaba, Shakopee, and Da. I said, hello everyone, my name is Justine. I am of the Eagle Clan from the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe, and I live in Shakopee. For some quick introductions, I have Christina Zander here. She is part of our parent committee. I have Marie Hart, who is a co-chair of the parent committee. I'm sorry, Francis. And then Carrie Zimmer, who is a parent from our parent committee as well. Hunter Wendland was a high school student that was going to come, but unfortunately this date didn't work for him. So I want to start by discussing some support that is given to educators currently. So the area of curriculum development, we've been working with learning, teaching, and equity coaches to be able to provide resources and kind of act as a sounding board in providing culturally responsive curriculum materials. And so learning, teaching, and equity coaches participated in writing a grant through the SMSC. And so they reached out to me and just had me part of that process when we were writing that grant. Further than that, we've been working with, I've been working with individual teachers on implementing diverse literature by encouraging the use of books written by Indigenous authors. And so with this, that helps all students learn about the culture through an authentic voice. Kind of in the future, we're looking at providing resources for workshops, seminars, trainings for teachers to learn more about Native culture, history, and perspective, but then also providing them ideas on different culture museums, cultural sites, historical sites, where teachers can then bring students on field trips or experiential learning opportunities where students can really engage through hands-on experiences and interactions from Native community members. And so I just want to quickly ask, does anybody know how many Indigenous tribes are in the state of Minnesota? And I'm not asking to shame you or like make you feel embarrassed or anything. There is a lot of people that genuinely don't know. So I just kind of wanted to go over it a little bit here. There are 4 Dakota communities, and you can see them on the bottom of the screen there: the Shakopee Metawapitan Sioux community, the Prairie Island Indian community, Lower and Upper Sioux communities. And then there are 7 Anishinaabe reservations. And so in total, we have 11 tribal nations here in Minnesota. With the tribal nation, or the Anishinaabe reservations, we have Mille Lacs, Leech Lake, White Earth, Red Lake Nation, Boys Fort, Fond du Lac, and Grand Portage. Speaking of tribal reservations and communities, did you know they have their own flags as well? So together with Shakopee High School administration, Native students are working toward a tribal flag display at the high school. These flags are an important representation that can be powerful and meaningful to the students to honor and celebrate the diverse culture and heritages within our school community. So I asked some Native students why tribal flags would be important to have at the high school, and they shared with me, it gives us access to the history and shows the school a part of us. The second student said, it shows who we are, where we come from, and what we represent as Native students. Speaking of Native students, this is our current Native student count. We currently have 231 students that spread across the district, with 3 in early childhood, 109 in elementary, 41 in the middle schools, and 79 at the high school level. Our students come from a wide array of tribal nations. So out of the 574 federally recognized tribal nations of the country, we have 28 tribal nations represented in our schools. Just a little comparison, Minneapolis has 55.
So we got a second?
No, St. Paul also has quite a few too. I just wanted to give a little bit comparison number on that. And to support our Native students and maintain unwavering support for each of our student learners, we are aligned with the principles and focus of Shakopee schools as a whole. And so our goals for American Indian education are post-secondary prep, academic support, intercultural awareness, positive reinforcement of self-image, and relevant curriculum to the students that we work with. Post-secondary prep has included a few college visits, one of them being St. Cloud State University and another one being Minnesota State University, Mankato. These visits are really important because it gives students that exposure, what they might not have had that opportunity before. It also gives them the opportunity to network and meet Native supports in those higher ed institutions. It can also build the confidence and empowerment for those students to see themselves in those spaces and pursue their dreams and goals. Further, we also partner with the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux community as a district, as an academy champion, and that provides students with courses, professional mentoring, and learning opportunities for their particular industry knowledge and creates hands-on learning experience. So I think having that partnership also supports post-secondary prep. We talked a little bit about this in the fall, about how elementary Native groups are new this year. We had 48 students in November, and currently we're up to 64. I just got 65 today. So that is a growth of 17 in 2 months. And I've had numerous parents reach out and say that's made a big impact for their students so far. We've learned games in these groups, such as I Love My Native People, which kind of gives them confidence and supporting of one another. We've also learned the 7 grandfather teachings of the Anishinaabe people and the 7 Dakota values. We've also read books by Native American authors. Secondary groups have engaged in consultants like Cindy Milda, who is also here with us today. She is the Cultural Outreach Coordinator for SMSC, and Tony Drews, who is the owner and operator of Noshki Games. They both bring deep knowledge and understanding of the Native culture, traditions, and community teachings, so they're a great asset for our team. Cindy taught our groups a lot about pate, or bison, and the cultural and traditional uses of those. The pate holds immense cultural, historical, and spiritual significance for many tribes. Tony works to preserve Ojibwe culture and language, and he has fun and interactive games that can be played with a whole classroom, a whole group, a whole family. And so this is showcasing one of his games called the snake game. And so the point of the game was to shake the snakes, throw them down on the table, and then you get these corresponding points. So while we were playing that, we were also learning Ojibwe language. Outside of the school day, winter storytelling events with Hope Flanagan provide families with an opportunity to gather around and to listen to traditional stories and teachings. Lacrosse events offer families a chance to engage in a sport while learning the cultural significance and importance within Native communities. And then the drum and dance groups provide families with opportunities to learn traditional songs, different dance styles, while also connecting with community members from 9 metro area school districts that we partner with. So those are just how many times this year we've done it. Hope Flanagan is once a year. She is a winter storyteller. Twin Cities Native Lacrosse comes once per quarter. Drum and dance sessions with the 9 area districts are 13 times per school year. And then we have our own drum group session, which is 10 times per school year. I also want to extend a heartfelt shout out and a big chimigwich, which means many thanks, to the SEAF board for awarding the SEAF grant to create a smudging space at the high school for Native students. Smudging is a sacred practice deeply rooted in tradition and spirituality, and it really involves burning sacred medicines such as sage, sweetgrass, and cedar to cleanse and purify like the mind, body, and spirit. So thank you so much, SEAF board, for your support. Together with the construction class, a committee of 15 students Native students provided feedback and requests to make that space happen. And today was the official groundbreaking. I was outside and got to see some of that. So these were the two design options, and then we came back with the Native Group Smudging Committee, and they ultimately chose this design on the left. Highlighting student voice is really crucial and critical. So when Native high school students are asked about the impact and importance of Indian Ed programming, this is some of the positive things they've said. They said, I get to build positive relationships with other Native students. I get to learn my own culture. It provides a sense of belonging. It helps acknowledge the resilience we have as people and to support each other. And then here are some more upcoming events that we have this year. We have some field trips taking place. So both at East and West, we'll be taking a field trip to the Badote, which is where the Minnesota and Mississippi River meet. It's a very sacred place for the Dakota community. And then beyond that, we are kind of going through the same river system. So the freshmen will be starting at the landing and learning some cultural historical background there. Sophomores will head to Lake Riley. And the idea is to have students interact with these sacred places and the land on their own so that they can really feel what the land was supposed to be. So each experience will kind of build on the last. So eventually, students in the younger grades would get the whole experience as a whole. And then the seniors will canoe from Minnetonka Beach to Big Island. Career Day is coming up, Indigenous Career Day. That'll be grades 6 through 12. And that is happening at the log cabin in Shakopee, where Indigenous community members will come in and speak about their schooling and careers. So we have a doctor coming in, a lawyer coming in, and then an early childhood specialist so far. So those are some things that we get to look forward to. And then here are a couple save the dates for you. South of the River Powwow is open to the public, and that grand entry starts at 1 p.m. This will take place at Burnsville High School on Saturday, May 4th, where we will honor the 2024 graduates, and that is the collaboration between the 9 districts. So there'll be multiple honorings there. There's also the class of 2024 feather ceremony. This feather ceremony this year will be held at Mystic Lake Center's Grand Ballroom, and seniors will be honored for their graduation accomplishment with a feather, a cedar box to hold their feather, and a quilt. And that is all I have for you. Is there anything you'd like to ask?
I have this, and I don't know if you know this, of the 28 nations in the district, are any of them Osage?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. Not off the top of my head, I don't think so.
My great-grandmother was Osage, so
Okay.
that's why I was just
Okay, yeah. That's where I'm ordering the feather boxes, the cedar feather boxes from.
nice.
I just want to say something.
Please, Jim.
The two most predominant native nations in Minnesota are Ojibwe and and Dakota or Lakota. So, and you were speaking about the READ program and the language program, and as I was listening, I'm a grandparent. I'm not a, member of the school board, I mean the Indian Education Board, but I'm a grandparent. And it's really important, I think, for all the, different nations to interact with the grandparents. I mean, we have such a high rate of disrespect for the grandparents, and I think the language, implementing language into classrooms or else programs, you're talking about language programs, are really important, because I think with their students and their identity, no matter which nation you come from, knowing who your grandparents are, knowing where you come from, and your family, and being able to be proud of who you are, and to educate other nations of your traditional ways and cultural ways really helps our children. And when they're culturally aware of their heritage and their families and stuff, it helps them in school, and it helps them relate to other people, and they're not so disrespectful, and they're not too, get in trouble or whatever it is, but statistics show on the reservation, I just came from there, on the reservation, that when our students are culturally aware and they practice their culture, that their school, their classes, academic are higher. They're higher. And I would say that's for every nation. It's not just Native Americans and stuff like that, but it's for every nation. But that language is really, really important, because I think a lot of the nations are losing their language. They don't speak to anybody, to each other in their language. And it's just the grandparents that do, mostly. So that's really an important part of I think the curriculum, the education in your school system. And it doesn't make any difference if it's gonna be just Dakota or Lakota, which, I mean, I would hope it could be, but that's an important part. Thank you.
No, thank you, and we certainly, and I know we're gonna learn a little bit more later, we certainly share much in the way of that goal, and understand how important language and that culture is, and how to do that, and we've started to do some of that looking, but we certainly need help. I had two things. One, I just wanted to thank Justine Bogle. It's her first year in this role, and she's been doing a wonderful job, and I may have this wrong, but you showed we're doing more with the elementary students than we did in previous years. We tried to caution her about doing too much too soon. So far we haven't found an effective way, but then I see what's happening, and it's wonderful, so thank you. And then the other, I think I put in it might have been last week's wrap, but the board members are certainly welcome to go to the feather ceremony, correct?
Absolutely.
I just wanna make sure.
And the powwow, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say, if anyone, sorry to interrupt, but if
No.
anyone hasn't gone to the feather ceremony, last year was my first year on school board, and it was really something special to be in the room, with that, and see, the effect on the students and their families. It was really neat to be there.
I just want to tell you a little history. You know why they give the feathers is because it's an achievement of a person, of their goals, or their, our warriors used to get a feather when they did something great for the family, for the tribe or something like that, so they awarded them a feather. And that's how they got their war bonnet. And the only one that wore bonnets was when they filled them up with their feathers. So if you did something great for the family, the tribe, or whatever it was in battle or war, then you were awarded a feather, and that made your bonnet. So it's hard, I think, for our students as seniors. We have a low rate on the reservation for seniors, very low rate. And because of the drugs, alcohol, or whatever plays a part nowadays in today's world. We never had those when I was growing up. But I think that this culture and the feathers and whatever traditions you come from and stuff like that, it's important for you to practice those ways with your children, so that they will know that.
Can I ask a question? American Indian or nations, do they they speak different languages. So Ojibwe and Dakota.
Separate. Yep.
that's
And even individual tribal nations will have their own dialect. So even like Leech Lake and Red Lake may have a different dialect from each other, even though they're both Ojibwe.
But the culture is the same.
Culture's similar. There's lots of, yeah, it's different for every tribal nation as well.
When you have a teacher too, in a classroom or we do at home, you have to have a male and a female, because they speak different. I speak different than a male would, when I say my words and stuff, so it has to be a male and a female. You can't have two females speaking to all the little girls and boys and stuff.
Interesting.
Excuse me, where are you from?
I am from Somalia. I came here when I was 18, and now I'm 50.
I didn't mean to be disrespectful, but as Native American, that's some of the first things we ask.
Where are you from?
We say, where are you from?
Yeah.
That's okay.
And it's sounded, because we might know them or you might be related or something, so it's one of the first
You
things we
guys
ask.
are doing great, well, the language is very important. I taught my kids, to speak Somali language. They can read and write. And if the children or kids lose their language, they lose their culture. So 75% of the culture is the language.
Not to interrupt, my father was in a boarding school at Wapton, and, they horrific stories of, forgetting their language. And when he'd come back home, the older brother that would take care of the boys would, try to install it back, but by that time, they were so frightened to speak it, that it was gone. So I'm so excited, especially having a daughter in this program at Shakopee. I'm so excited that she gets to relearn for her grandfather and carry that on. That's so important to me, because even when I was in high school, and I'm not that old, I can relate with you. I had to hide who I was in high school. I told people I was Latino, because that was more accepted in my high school. Yeah, and I was probably the only Native American in my high school, and they just told them I was Latino. And I shame on that now, because I shame my father, I shame ancestors and elders, and now I'm, I couldn't be more proud.
All right, so we will pass it to Marie Hart.
Chate washte nape chusapi. Marie Hart Nyakyapi. I shake all your hands, the warm heart. My name is Marie Hart. I'm co-chair and also a parent. I have a 29-year-old, 19-year-old, and a 14-year-old who all attended the public schools here. And when I was younger, when I went to public school, we never had union education in the schools. And I was glad my kids were a part, of the things that go on with the Native education program, and it help them build their, their self-esteem and their identity. And today, as a parent and a co-chair, rewarding non-compliance with the issues that we presented in the letter. The first one was working with American Indian education staff and other staff on having designated space at the high school, which were to house artifacts, supplies, books related to Native American culture and history. And this space will serve as a resource center where students can access materials and information that contribute to their culture, education, and awareness. It will also be a place to hold Native groups and cultural activities for all students. And number two is, it is also essential to address the issue of generational trauma and provide training on tribal nations' history and significance, including the cultural importance of long hair within many Native American communities. Understanding the historical context of trauma and the resilience of tribal nations is crucial for creating and supportive and inclusive learning environment for Native American students. As a parent, I have a son who has long hair, and he's in the 8th grade now. And every year, I felt it was my duty to present to all the teachers teachers that he had, that the reason why we wear our hair long and the reason why no one touches it, because it's our medicine, it's our power. So every year, at the beginning of the year, I sit down with the teacher and we talk, and this is why my son wears his hair long. And also I was so honored to, some of the teachers would ask us to come to the classroom and say, can you, show us our dances, and so we would. And that was awesome. And, my kids would come back and like, hey mom, my friends are all excited and stuff and want to, touch, in our culture though, you ask before you touch your regalia, if you wanna, see it or anything, but yeah, you wanna ask and stuff. But there's little things like that I was proud that, my be able to present that, because long ago we were, you couldn't do that. They just like they said back in the day, you were ashamed. You're ashamed into not being who you were, and showing your identity. So I was, as a parent, that really made me feel good though, to have that space. And lastly, we advocate for increased support and resources for Indian education programming within our school district by allocating adequate personnel to these programs. We can better meet the unique academic, social, and cultural needs of Native American students and ensure their success in school. And to me, being non-compliant is not a negative thing. It's like setting the bar for our kids. Like, we want more for our children, and so to me, the non-compliance, voting on that was not negative for me. It's like for every parent that wants, to see their children thrive in the education systems, be it, in our public schools, or learning more ways, or, Native cultural ways, So, and I wanna say one last thing, means thank you for letting me speak. And I wanna end with this quote. It says, let us put our minds together and see what life we can make for our children. And it was by Sidney Wolf. So I wanna thank you, for letting us be here and to listen to our words and stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, and then just to be clear, we kind of shifted on the agenda. So we moved on, once we moved from Justine to Marie, we moved to the action item 8.1. So
You're still projecting.
Sorry.
We were trying to.
I'm new at this.
No, you're doing great.
So what Marie was reading was from item 8.1 on the agenda for those following along. And just to be clear, this is an item we have to vote on, or is it to accept the letter of?
They present it, we end up accepting it and signing it. I think if you wanna vote, and we can put that up, would be good. And I only know a little bit of Ojibwe, and so I would say Miigwech.
Okay.
So thank you. And again, I agree. I think if we have work to do, we can be better. We're doing some really, really good things, but we need to work together and be better. And I think that's really what the vote of non-concurrence is about. And we share that same desire, and it's very sincere when we, we'll come and ask what does that look like? How do we get there and do those things? And we truly want the best for each and every student who walks through our doors. And we want them to be their authentic selves. We want, being their authentic self is wonderful. And it's one of the things I love about Shakopee, and that's part of, you've seen that compelling vision on a lot of things. And that's what it's about. Each kid shows up, and each kid is great. However they come to us, whomever they are, it's wonderful. So, but yeah, our board should vote on accepting that, and then we write a response, and we'll send that, and we'll continue. But again, we're working together.
And some of these recommendations are kind of already in process. Part of the letter was just to make you aware.
So we're voting to acknowledge receipt of the letter, and then the district will correct a response. So, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Peterson and a second by Mohammed. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is another action item, item 8.2. This is the revised fiscal '24 budget. And with us again is Bill Benazzi, Director of Finance. This is the second time you've had to follow a pretty big presentation.
It never fails. There's always a great presentation that's very moving, and then you get to the finance. Sorry, Joe.
They're all.
Thank you for the time. This is an annual process, generally in February, where we recommend to the school board to approve the revised budget for the year. This was reviewed in great detail by our Finance and Facilities Committee earlier this evening. My intent with the board as a whole is to view this in a very consolidated, condensed form. And so for Tiffany following along here, I'll probably skip back and forth with some of the slides. So we will do that. I'll give you some of the highlights, or just one highlight as we go. This presentation reads, we'll look at some timeline and process, then we look at the adopted budget that the board approved in June. We look at revenue and expenditure changes since that time, the revised budget now, and then just the consolidated summary in total. If you take away one highlight, the adopted budget that the board approved in June had a $12.3 million, about a 10.5% fund balance, which is just about at the mid-range, or a little bit more than the mid-range of the school board policy. That $12.3 million in the adopted budget grew just very slightly to $12.47 million in the revised budget, still about that 10.5% range. So that's really the key highlight and takeaway from the presentation. Now we will dig into the details. So starting with the fund overview, you can see the different components of our school district funds, the general fund being by far and away the largest fund, but we do have the other funds listed on the screen as well. Our fund balance overview, we've talked about this at length. Strive to maintain a fund balance between 8 and 12%. That is the unassigned fund balance, which is the overall measure of our financial health, but there are other classifications of fund balance as well. Restricted fund balance would be one that we talked about, which is, as discussed earlier, the operating capital. Long-term facilities maintenance and our technology levy are restricted. There are also assigned fund balances. We have an assigned fund balance for a subsequent year budget, should we choose to utilize that. And then there's also a committed fund balance. We don't currently have a committed fund balance, but that's something that we can look at down the road for things like facilities, rent revenue, and other things that you may see later on this year. The adopted budget assumptions. Our student enrollment assumption was 7,642 students, and you can see the different revenue and expenditure assumptions. I won't review those in detail because, as I mentioned, I did review that with Finance and Facilities Committee. I simply show that to show that there are assumptions that are just that, our estimates based off of the time of the year, and we'll update those in the revised budget process. For example, state aid, we assumed 3%. We know that the actual settlement was 4%. Now next year we also assume 3%, and right now the actual settlement is 2%. The fund balance breakout, this is the adopted budget, so what the board would have approved in June. The only difference from this sheet and what you approved in June is the left-hand column. The fund balance, starting fund balance as of the beginning of the year is now audited and actual, right? So in June we would have been working off of expected end of year fund balance. Now we're looking at actual end of year fund balance. But you can see the top row is really the key, the important row there, the 12.3 million, 10.5% fund balance is our projection at the end of this year in the adopted budget anyway. The overview of all of our funds, so you can see in total, our total revenue is projected at 155.6 million, or was projected in the adopted budget. Our total expenditures of 157.8 million. That was again from the budget approved in June. Now we will transition to a summary of the revisions, starting on the revenue side in the general fund. Our general fund revenue budget increased by 1.6%, or in our case about 1.96 million from the adopted budget. And you can see the main budget increases from the adopted budget to the revised budget. I've separated those out into state aid, other local revenue, and then I have a note about our enrollment. And really at the bottom, that's an important part. We talked at the Finance and Facilities Committee. While this is a good budget and a big step to get towards the mid-range of our fund balance policy, we are proceeding with caution, right? We're proceeding with caution for a number of reasons. We all know we're in a period of declining student enrollment. We understand the budget impact that that has, and we're proceeding with caution for that reason. Pandemic response funds, one-time federal revenue that can be used one time, and we'll use the remaining portion this year, and so we're proceeding with caution with what that looks like moving forward. And then also, the 2023 legislative session was certainly helpful to Minnesota school districts, but we're really unpacking the long-term impacts of the mandates related to that legislative session. So we're optimistic about that, but we also do understand the long-term impacts of those mandates from the session. The next page has a summary of the expenditure revisions. As our revenue is up 1.6%, our expenditures in the revised budget are up 1.3 million, or about $1.5 million. And you can see I've separated that out into salary and benefits, and then purchase services. I mentioned about the property and casualty insurance, and that being up. And really, the salary and benefits are expected or known contractual obligations. And obviously, if settlements have a material difference from our budget assumption, then we will update the board accordingly. But that's what we have built into the budget for right now. And so with that, we'll go to the next slide, and you can see this is the revised budget. So this is really what we're asking the board to take action on tonight in the general fund. Our unassigned fund balance has grown, or is projected to grow to $12,480,000, about 10.5% fund balance. And you can see some other small changes at the bottom. I'll point out the assigned for district programming was 1.5 million and is projected to grow by a small amount, about 198,000 to 1.698 million. So good news overall, slight growth in our fund balance, adherence with our fund balance policy, and as I mentioned, proceeding in future years with caution. And you can see on this slide is just a summary of all funds combined, and where the revenue and expenditures are projected in the revised budget for each respective fund. I did talk about our pandemic response funds and kind of the rollout of the remaining pandemic money, and I just thought it would be helpful to provide an account of the history of that, dating all the way back to 2020 when the pandemic started. And I include this slide to show that breakout, and then also this is the last year of that pandemic money. When we move forward into fiscal 25, that will be gone and complete. And so with that, I have our recommendation to approve the following amounts in the revised budget. And so should the board approve this tonight, the action that would happen then is we would upload the chart of accounts into our Skyward financial system, and then that would be our revised budget that we would go by this year. We'll continue to track our revenue and expenditures against that revised budget, and then when you see the audit report next fall, usually it has an original and an amended budget, and this would be the revised or amended budget for the current year. And then next steps is our last slide. So we have begun working on our long-range financial planning model. So you recall each year in I think this is still winter, I don't know, tomorrow it will be. We will update that long-range financial planning model and have that available for the Finance and Facilities Committee later this spring, where we will include next year as year one, and then out 4 years after that in the out years projections. And then looking ahead, the next time you'll see something from a budgetary standpoint will be our recommendation to approve the adopted budget, which will come to this board on June 24th. Statute requires that you approve a budget before the start of the fiscal year on July 1st, so we'll be recommending that on June 24th. So I did go through that pretty quick. I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have. Otherwise, in summary, we're projected to be at 10.5% fund balance, a slight growth from the adopted budget to the revised.
I have a couple of questions. Bill, on the slide, the revised recommendation, I think it's slide 13 maybe?
Yes.
The food service fund. Is there a loss there based on the federal program not reimbursing the state in a timely manner because of the state of Minnesota going to the free meals for all format, and the federal program still requires that those forms or the numbers be submitted for the free and reduced lunches.
Yeah, the deficit shown there is related to the free meals for all, but it is more related to a conservative estimate based on the unknown of the first year of the free meals. You'll recall, we had that during the pandemic, and then last year we went to paid meals, and then this year is back to free meals. And so I'm not quite sure how all the revenue is gonna shake out related to that new free meals for all. And so really the 4,957,000 or 4.957 million is an estimate on revenue based off of some unknowns in the first year, knowing that I didn't wanna come in at less than that.
Right.
So it is related to that program and just kind of the unknown.
I assume so.
Well, it must partly be to the, I mean, we've had increased meals given out too, right? Expense related to more people having breakfast and lunch, more students.
Yeah, and I think there's some uncertainty. I think things have stabilized in terms of food prices and some of that, and even, so. I think, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but very conservative budgeting.
For sure, yep, in the food service.
Hopefully we might finish better.
Yeah, yes, I think that's accurate. And just all the intangibles related to the free meals. Where do we expect the snack bar and a la carte stuff to go as a component of that? Because obviously the type A, the regular lunch is the free meal. You know, if kids aren't selecting that, where does a la carte sales and how does all that balance out? And so Dr. Edmond hit on that. It is truly a conservative estimate on both the revenue and expense side.
The other question I had is just a comment, I guess more so than a question, in regards to on slide 8, about moving forward and so many unknowns. Those unknowns scare me. Because I think that there's a significant cost to the district coming that we just can't even realize yet, based on, they don't even know yet at the state level what it's gonna look like, what that cost is gonna be, what we're gonna get reimbursed for, probably very little. I mean, just look at the unemployment insurance, how much of that was utilized, and there was money left, or there is money allocated for that. It was one-time money, so once it's gone, and that pool was shared by all the school districts. And then just, you know, the contractual stuff. So, for example, the bus company, you know, their increase in costs, obviously they are eligible for the unemployment insurance as well, and that comes out of that bucket. And with those increasing, those contracted costs, does that include, I mean, are we ending up paying for that unemployment insurance that they are having to pay? And so there's just all kinds of domino effects, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, and the paid family medical leave, that's gonna be coming, down the pike, that is very, very scary, I think, for not only the employee, but the employer, and what that dollar amount's gonna be, so, just a lot of.
I think that's well said. And as you mentioned, more of a comment. As I hear you talking about that, I'm reflecting on our utilization of limited resources and how we've been pretty proactive in doing that to balance our budget. Things like pandemic money, realizing that it is one-time money, and how are we utilizing that to both balance the budget and understand and quantify that moving forward. I think about our period of declining enrollment for our students. Understanding that it's so very important to build the budget on students, and we either need to come at or above that, because the missing low is, you know, obviously not a good thing. So I think about how we've done that in the past years and how that'll be important moving forward with some of the unknowns related to these mandates. I share your concerns and caution moving forward, and I just think we can help mitigate that if we continue to budget the way that we have done in the past years, with those two things being an example.
I just know that, just speaking with other school board members in other districts, that they're extremely concerned. I mean, the good news for us is that we built that unassigned fund balance up, and that's to our benefit for things like this. If we have to dip into it, we've got the funds to do it. There are a lot of neighboring school districts that we compare to that don't have that, and are already looking at, "Ooh, what are we gonna do? We're gonna be an SOD. And I'm glad we're not in that position, at this point. But just the ramifications are gonna be pretty devastating, not just to our school district, but to every school district in the state.
I guess I would say, fortunately, we had a roundtable here a couple weeks ago with, one of the participants was the chair of the Education Finance Committee, and they're well aware of these issues at the state, so I'm hopeful they will address these, but yeah, I guess we'll see. All right, any more questions or discussion for Bill before we vote?
I would like to make a motion to approve the revised budget.
Second.
We have a motion by Aldrich and a second by Brophy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is another action item, item 8.3, consideration to approve policies. This is a third reading of the policies that we've been looking at in prior meetings. And we will be voting on these tonight. So I will, and I've read these in past meetings, I've read the notes. Would anybody like to open these up and discuss any of them individually before we vote?
I'll make a motion to approve the policies as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Peterson and a second by Johnson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is item 8.4. This is another action item. This is to change the board development meeting to March 11. So it's currently March 8, and we're proposing to move it to March 11. We have conflicts with 2 members on the board who will not be available on the 4th. And I had reached out to each of you individually, and everybody said the 11th would work for you. So we're going to be voting to make that official tonight. Is there any comment on that? And Aditya did not ask you, unfortunately, but so hopefully March 11 will work for you.
It should work for me.
All right, we'll make sure we let Michelle know as well, assuming this passes. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Brophy and a second by Valdez. Any further discussion?
Is that at 5 o'clock or?
It should be 6, right? Or
Is it 5? It's a developmental.
It's
5
5.
o'clock.
It's at 5.
Okay.
Just want to confirm that, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is an information item, item 9.1, district update from Dr. Redmond.
Yeah, I've got 42 slides here. Not too many, kind of a quick update, and go next. So what I give, we're gonna host, yeah, it was really well said. We're gonna host the Minnesota Educators Career Fair. What I got jumbled up in, this is one that's been hosted, it's been at the University of Minnesota for a number of years, and that kind of fell apart this year. And Keith Gray, our Director of Human Resources, came to us and said, hey, what do you think? you know, he and some of his colleagues have been talking about it, and they think there's still value in it, and yeah, he said if we were willing to give it a go, he and his team would kind of take the leadership, and they've done that, and so that is why Shakopee is going to host it again. You know, career fairs are different than they used to be, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but we're hoping there's still value in that. We're partnering with a lot of other Minnesota school districts. He's got some good feedback from places, but just, you know, there's a couple factors that make it more challenging. There are fewer education graduates in our state universities and college currently, and just even kind of the competitive nature of that job market. But we're really hopeful, and again, very thankful that our, you know, we've got folks in our organization, on our team. You know, we talk about, hey, let's try to do things that are for the good of our district, but also hopefully for the greater good of our community and our educational community. So that's coming up. Lots of great things coming up for kindergartners, a couple larger engagement efforts. I won't read the entire slides, but Kindergarten Roundup, March 19th and 20 is not that far off. And then Kinder Camp, again, is happening in the summer, and I think this is one of those really, really cool things that we've implemented. Where we, you know, if you ever go watch sort of even the visits on the roundups and whatever, and how excited the kids are to get on the bus and do that with the family. Well, this is a, you know, kind of a trial run on August 14th and 15th, and it helps a lot of our young kids with that anxiety of, hey, we're going to a new school and do whatever. It's exciting and kind of scary at the same time, and I think it helps some of our parent and guardians too, where it's sort of it's a good chance to try it out, and so really excited that that is becoming a staple of something that we offer to our kindergarten students and their families. And then a couple really cool upcoming events this week. Wednesday night, the Shakopee High School Black Student Union will do their Black History Month showcase. A lot of great talent on display at the main auditorium from 5:30 to 8 p.m. Ticket prices are reasonable. And then pretty excited for this joint production of the two middle schools with Newsies JR. And heck, that auditorium's been remodeled. It's ready to go. They, I believe I saw today, I think they had it says here, over 90 students. I had another note from somebody with this, and it's just a really, really cool event where our middle schools come together, put on that. So that is, what is it, I think 7 o'clock on Friday, 2 and 7 on Saturday, and 2 o'clock on Sunday. So that is it.
Any questions for Dr. Redmond? All right, thank you, Dr. Redmond. Next on our agenda is item 10, committee reports and other information. Really curious to hear if anybody has gone to the recent sporting events. I know, you know, our hockey team and wrestling team have really been doing well lately, and haven't been able to attend, so I'm kind of curious if anybody has. But let's start with Mohammed. Yeah, you don't have to talk just about sports, but.
The only sports I knew was soccer. I don't pay attention anymore because I don't have extra TV in the house. Kids are watching football, so they eliminated me, my phone.
All right, thank you. Chad?
Nothing committee related, but I am participating in the Grow Your Own Teacher Scholarship program again this year. That's coming up soon, I think kicking off in a week or two. So I'm excited about that.
Joe?
We had the finance and facilities meeting before the school board meeting tonight, and pretty much as usual covered everything here that we covered there. So that's it.
Caroline?
Well, for the community engagement, you know, we met at the end of January, and we had Tim Zunker and Jesse Lara come, did a snapshot of activities that went on, the MSB conference highlights, and then just kind of common areas of focus, like high engagement periods for families and students, which is the stepping stone and kinder camp. So that's kind of big highlight for community engagement. I did attend, obviously, the Coach versus Cancer for basketball, and that's really impactful. And we raised, I don't know how much money we raised, but we raised a lot, and it was just really great to see everyone.
Tim?
As my colleague Ms. Alter said, we had our finance facilities meeting part of this. I've got a district advisory council meeting tomorrow. And then not too far down the path, we're gonna have our first policy meeting with our new policy chair, so stay tuned.
Christie?
A few things, we have negotiations again tomorrow night with SCA. At a Southwest Metro board meeting on, last Tuesday night, I think. Get my days all mixed up here. I think one of the interesting things that Southwest Metro offers some career and tech type of classes for our students. And the number of students that attend out of the Shakopee district was way more than what I ever thought it was. I didn't write down the number, I just wrote down the dollar amount that is spent. But just some really cool things of what those kids are doing over there. Some of them, I don't think there was somebody from Shakopee, but there might have been, because we talked about multiple programs, but they had a drone competition that these kids were in, and they had to plan it out, how they were gonna fly their drone, the conditions, the wind. I mean, it was very detailed, and I think they did quite well at the tournament, so that was really cool to see. I just came back from Dallas actually last night. I was at the Consortium of State School Board Association conference Wednesday through Sunday. There were 25 states that were represented, and very large attendance of school board members, association staff, as well as board members. And just a few things that I wanted to highlight. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of learning on the impact of AI in the classroom. And not necessarily bad, but how it can be incorporated into educational opportunities and learning, and how students in the classroom, basically how it can be done safely. And then also just some policies, what's coming down the pike as far as what the schools need from a governance standpoint in regards to AI. So obviously this is a national thing, so a lot of states, laws and rules and policies in every state are different. So I think there'll be more to come on that, but it was really interesting. Another item was just thinking about how boards can become more forward-thinking. We do a lot of governance and kind of like hearing the things that are going on in our district today, but how can we be more forward-thinking with student achievement and those types of things. And something that really resonated with me because of our Hell's Law, our board, I think fits into this, is the rhythm of promises made and promises kept really develops trust and credibility, and I really feel that this board has done that over the past several years. So that was kind of cool to hear. And then, we talk about school board, really what is their job? Governance. But it's really more than governance, it's really all about student achievement. And so there was a speaker that talked about how that's incorporated into governance and how critical professional development is for our teachers, but it's just as critical for school board members as well. So just a lot of good things. There was when we had some of the elementary principals talking about developmental designs tonight, there was a presentation about how some schools are almost doing like a teacher science fair at conferences, where teachers are actually pulling out the boards outside their classroom and talking about what they've done to move the needle when it comes to either math or literacy. And it's not necessarily test scores, but just how they are helping students be more successful in the classroom. So I thought that was really unique and interesting, and, you know, you really only think about that when you think about kids and science fair projects, right? But these were actually teachers and how well that parents, really received that, so. And then the last thing, just, talking about sports, I will be at, the Excel Center on Thursday and Saturday for the State High School League Wrestling State Tournament. We have our team that will be participating on Thursday, and then we have 9 individuals, on Saturday Friday and Saturday that will be competing, our boys hockey team. I didn't get to watch the game online because I couldn't get it streamed while I was in Dallas, but lost a tough one to Chanhassen. So yeah, a lot of exciting things going on in our district, and we still have our boys basketball team that's still got tournaments coming up, and they're doing really well this year as well, so I think they have a home game left. Two home games left.
Yeah. Yep, the girls are still playing.
So I'm excited for Thursday and Saturday, cause I hope I get to put some medals on some Shakopee kids. That'd be
cool.
That'd be awesome. And then I just wanna remind everyone about Day at the Capitol for MSBA, which is March, I think it's the 17th, whatever that Monday is, 17th or 18th.
18th.
So if you can attend, that would be great, and if you are planning to attend, if you can let me know, because I wanna set up some meetings with our, legislators that represent Shakopee. And so knowing who's gonna be there, is helpful.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to tell that. We have the Finance and Facilities Committee, meeting tonight. I did mention that Education Roundtable, that was what, 2 Thursdays ago, I think? And that was right here in this room, hosted by Representative Tapke. And we had representatives from about every education group I can imagine here, including several teachers from the district, representatives of a couple of unions, state level unions, and then the chair of the House Education Finance Committee and the chair of the House Policy Committee, who are also on each other's boards, or chairs of their respective boards. Dr. Redmond was there. I don't know, I say this a lot, even though I'm in my 4th year on the board, but that was like drinking from the fire hose that night. And I was just really impressed by how well the chairs of those respective education committees knew education. I mean, they knew their stuff, and it was so impressive to listen to them talk about the issues. And the teachers, our teachers, our Shakopee teachers, brought up some valid concerns. Dale Anderson, the SEA representative, brought up, you know, healthcare, the rising cost of healthcare for teachers, and how big a concern that is. You know, that it's obviously something we're working with the SEA negotiations, but you know, other teacher brought up, you know, pensions, and you know, and how, you know, they're age 66 to retire with a full pension in Shakopee, and how that's a concern. And so it's just a lot of great discussion, and just an opportunity to address our concerns to the people at the legislature. So this MSBA Day at the Capitol is a good follow-up to that. So. Aditya.
I don't have anything major to report. I am going to a cultural event for Hindus. That's going to be happening. There's a religious event going on Friday. It's going to be having a lot of Shakopee kids, but also just people all over the state. It's a pretty good opportunity to talk to other kids, see what their thoughts are. I couldn't tell you the name of it because it's on my MacBook, and the MacBook is dead. But I am going to that.
Aditya, do you know Amita Baksha?
Sorry?
Amita Baksha.
I'm sorry, the name doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, Amita Baksha is a great actor. My time. He's still acting. He's like 70 years old.
Oh.
Great actor. So Google it tonight.
Yeah, make sure you do it.
Yeah.
Tiffany?
There's a lot of great things going on that you'll see, hopefully communicated in various ways. We got a newsletter today, and there's some mail to home, a mail to home newsletter that'll be hitting families in a couple weeks, so I will save all of my updates for those.
Thanks. Jim?
I went to the hockey game Saturday night. They finished 21-5. They were 0-2 with me in attendance. There'll be a picture by the door next year with my face. I won't be allowed back.
Great record.
Yeah, I was perfect this year. That's great. And we do have our final meeting with the county tomorrow to finalize some of the truancy work that we talked about in the joint board meeting. So hopefully we'll have some results to report on that in the relatively near future.
Thank you. You get the last word, Dr. Rittman?
Yeah, again, great season by the boys hockey team. They were conference champs and, tough region when, you got Janus and Minnetonka in there. And that happens, but it's a fun time of year for those folks who like, high school athletics and, other kind of activities and productions. And so, nothing really to add, other than, lots of things going on. A lot of it got shared. Really appreciate when board members and members of our leadership team show up and attend those, and I know the people that are doing that really enjoy that too. So thank you, and you all do a nice job of making time. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, item 11, upcoming meetings and important dates. So you can see we've got the links to our meeting calendar and athletics and activities, Black History Month, School Board Recognition Month, I Love to Read Month. March is Women's History Month. And then you can see a couple upcoming events here. February 28th, the Black Student Union Showcase at 5:30. Week of March 4, School Social Worker Week. And then we've got as you mentioned, the musical coming up. And then I've got band concerts coming up in March, and Eagle Creek Science and Art Fair. So a lot of neat things coming up. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. So we've got a motion by Peterson, second by Mohammed. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.